What's up, everybody? The browser wars are back. You remember Internet Explorer versus Firefox back in the day? We're about to do that whole thing again, but it's going to look a little different this time because AI is involved. We are going to talk about that today. We're also starting a little trend here. Our intrepid producer, Olga, last week and the week before dropped some sort of exclusives here, kind of looking at Nvidia's ownership stake in, well, everything in AI. And this week, she's got another deep dive into the huge bets that OpenAI is making to sort of dictate the way this whole AI landscape plays out. Nobody's really talking about this. This seems, when we go through the segment today, you'll be like, wow, that seems pretty important. Why is nobody talking about this? But this is a new thing we do here, thanks to our producer, Olga. We give you some exclusives on the big shifts, the big stuff that's happening behind the scenes that's kind of dictating the way this whole AI landscape plays out. So looking forward to that. And then we've got a whole new shift in pricing that is starting to happen. So things like SaaS products, things like usage-based products, all this stuff, sort of there's like a new little sifting and filtering happening, and we're figuring out better ways to do things. I have talked about this in the past with subscription fatigue, things like that. Like, people aren't happy with the pricing models that are out there. There's always people talking about like, well, I use these plugins and I say this, pay the same price every year, even though maybe nothing changes. Really, I'm not getting anything else out of it. Why am I paying the same price? There's consternation. There's discomfort. There's people aren't happy with the way things are. And AI is sort of revealing some of the cracks in that structure, forcing new pricing models to emerge, which is a win for all of us. We are the people using the stuff. We're the people paying. We like to win. So we got some wins in the horizon. We're going to talk about that. And then, is AI going to be taking over social media? Is it going to be determining what we see? Have humans done a bad job curating what humans like? Is that even, like, did I really just say that? Is that real? We are going to look at that today. I think it's a little more interesting than you might think, and not as clear cut, like, oh, humans should be in charge of what humans like. I don't know, gang. We're going to talk about that. We got all that and more on today's episode 13 of the Practical AI Show. Strap in. Let's do this thing. We're going to start with the browser wars. Olga, take it away.
Yeah, so you are in the right place to get your dose of what has happened in this past week. We've looked at over 30 newsletters. That's what I do every week to kind of see what the trends are. And we're here to sort of serve you it all from the, fire hose in the next hour. That's what my goal is, every week to finish in an hour. So that's what we're going to do. And as Chris said, we talked about GEO or AAO a couple of weeks ago. And today we're going to see how this actually is coming literally in the next 6 weeks. So it's here faster than we actually know. And we're also going to talk about another skill that you got to start mastering that our teenagers are teaching us when it comes to AI. So you are in the right place to learn all the latest and the greatest. So you can actually take that, run with it, build with it, and be successful and win with AI. As Chris said, we're going to be doing the first segment of the day is another browser. So, and obviously, I think everybody who's breathing heard that ChatGPT has announced this week that they've released Atlas, ChatGPT Atlas, which is another AI browser. And we are going to talk a little bit about what that means, but I wanted to kind of show the whole picture of browsers and the wars that are happening. So we aren't just going to talk about, oh yeah, it's news, great, you can read about that somewhere else, but we're actually going to talk about what does that mean to you all, and what can you do with this, and what to watch out for. So like I said, OpenAI just dropped Atlas this week. What that is that their own version of AI-powered browser. So, sounds boring, another browser, but actually it might change the way the web works. So here's why you should care. Atlas has memory, real memory. So it indexes every page you visit. You can ask, what did I look at 2 days ago about this plane tickets, and it will tell you everything you've looked at, the pricing, what you've seen. I mean, the browsing history just basically became searchable. So it's kind of wild, right? And Atlas has agents. So AI can now fill forms, click buttons, add things to carts. So it's not just reading the web anymore, it's doing things on the web. So what does it actually mean? You can research across 50 tabs. Atlas will synthesize this, compare it, shopping across multiple sites, get you the best thing. So it's kind of like your assistant that's always there. I actually used today in my team meeting, in our huddle, we're basically, what we did this morning is I used the Atlas in the browser as we were doing the meeting in the live way, asking questions about the scoreboard. So for me, I'm already using this for work. And so it was kind of fascinating to do that real life, where my agent was telling me things I wanted to know without adding different tabs and cells and columns. It was like doing this on the fly. It was amazing. So that's just one application that I've tried so far. But here's the problem. AI agents need to understand what things are. So a human sees a button and knows from context it's a buy button. Do you want to pull that? Do you want to pull that visual?
Let's do that.
Because of course, I created a visual for you. So I wanted to demonstrate what that actually means. What does it mean that AI agents look at your site, right? Go to the second one for a second. So it needs proper labels, semantic HTML, clear structure. And most sites don't have that because we build them for human eyes, not machine understanding. So I don't know about you, but there were a lot of times when I'm on someone's website and I'm trying to figure out, how do I buy this? Where's the button? How do I get to this? And, I am confused. So AI agents are going to be even more confused. So this is the Grok picture of kind of what that actually means. So you can see here a human view, poorly marked HTML, and that means AI is confused. And then you can see what well-marked HTML is. So again,
let me draw this into the realm of reality for people that deal with this stuff. So so developers will do goofy stuff like this. You might have a link that's styled as a button, but it uses these classes, like nothing on the CSS classes says button or gives any indication that something is a button. So not using semantic markup, not using a button element to represent an actual button on the page. These are some of these semantic sins that could confuse an AI browser. Another one is not using semantic class names. So like saying something's a container, like, well, it's a container. If you use a big practice over the last few years has been to use something like Tailwind CSS, which is not 100% semantic. It uses these cryptic class names and these, lots of them together on certain elements. And you can't really tell what something is. Some of the element names are there for structure. Some are there specifically for style. Like there's all this muddying of the waters. And it's not really great, because then when you have an AI thing trying to read the page, you're introducing opportunities for confusion. Not great. You have something else that's been used in accessibility called ARIA labels. These are nice. Those are really nice for AI agents. Like this was really something that was done for accessibility and for like handicapped people. Now it's not for handicapped people, it's for the AI browsing agents. So some of these things that were considered best practices, maybe somewhat fringe, like maybe we do this, maybe we don't. Now it's becoming clear that we have to do some of these things to cater to the machines that will be browsing and using these websites in the future. And it also suggests that some of these kitchen sink frameworks are not going to cut it because they introduce too much semantic confusion.
Right. So when AI browser watches, looks through your site, and you have done a good job with making sure that your site is understood by AI, and then another site that is just for human understanding, guess whose site AI agent, aka the Atlas or Comet, guess whose site is going to be used more by AI is probably the one that AI can understand and read the best. I'm just assuming. Chris, you tell me, like, who is going to be the better bet to go and more clear to understand and use.
Well, again, with AI, so much goes back to clarity. AI wants binary yeses or nos. If one site's markup delivers a much higher confidence percentage than another, then it's going to win. And the ways you do that is by making sure there's no confusion. In terms of the HTML code that's there, you don't want to introduce confusion. You want to keep it clean. But also in terms of the actual elements that appear on the page, the design of the page itself. This goes back to something I've been harping on that comes up, every other week or so. It's attention design. And attention design is basically you've got a web page is about a thing. The only stuff on that page is that thing. From top to bottom, the whole scroll, the whole thing is relevant to that topic and only that topic. There are not side links to other stuff like, oh, go check this out. There's not ads. There's nothing. Just the meat. And that is the flip side of it. That's the visual side of the confidence stuff for AI.
Yeah.
That's attention design, and then you got the code.
So I wanted our brains here, Chris, to kind of show the on the back, right? But Atlas got released. I was kind of hesitant about it. Then I read Dharmesh's newsletter, and now he was, of course, all in on it. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna be brave and install it. So I did that yesterday, and I have to tell you, it's very, very different. You can't, I already see people on X, trashing it, putting it in trash. It's terrible, yada yada. It is different. It's not the same browser as Chrome because you have to actually use your brain on what you want to do with the page. So you can ask questions, you can summarize things. Like I've analyzed our YouTube page today with our lives and all the, you just got to rethink how you use it. So whether or not you like it or not, here's the deal. It is moving that direction. And like Ken was saying, he's watching this through Atlas browser, and it helps him analyze and summarize and do all that stuff. You can't think of it the same way as you think for Chrome. So let me keep moving because there's a lot that we want to cover about this. So Perplexity launched their Comet browser in July with similar ideas, but the key difference with Comet was that it forgets everything when you close it. Atlas remembers forever because you log in with your ChatGPT email address. So that memory creates serious lock-in. So 6 months from now, Atlas will know everything. So whatever you visited, everything you've done, and you are really going to switch and lose all that context. I don't know. It will be hard. It's hard for me to imagine that yet. The distribution advantage, thanks for pulling that up, Chris. OpenAI has 800 million ChatGPT users and one push notification, and they have instant scale. Comment can't touch that. But Comment has edge. It's built on Chromium, so your Chrome extension work day one. Atlas, starting from scratch. So no password manager extensions yet. So you have to import stuff in there. So that's kind of the hurdle that you have to overcome. And then of course there's security questions. That was my biggest concern. And then I told Chris that, yesterday, I was like, I am so concerned about Atlas security, but I'm like, why am I not concerned about my Chrome security? Google gets to see everything I do. I did have to go to Atlas and uncheck the setting because conveniently it's checked for it to be kind of watching everything you do on their end. So I unchecked that. So at least I think I'm sort of kind of not, protected a little bit. Who knows? But overall, the security question is that Comet got hammered in August audits, prompt injection vulnerabilities that let attackers trick the AI. Atlas obviously hasn't been tested yet. The risk is there, probably the same as with any AI browser. So if you're giving an agent access to your entire web session, just kind of be mindful and just don't be all in on this. So those are just the comment. So my first reaction was, it could be useful, right? I mean, go back and see what I've done a week or two ago without trying to go through all my history. That's powerful. I said I hesitated because it's kind of new and scary, right? And how many people would probably not do that and not switch. And then I kind of try to imagine, what will happen to Chrome? So Chrome right now has 65%, I think, of the browser market. So, and they make billions from search ads. If they integrate Gemini into Chrome the way Atlas integrates ChatGPT, they kind of will kill their own business. So if AI answers questions directly, why would anyone click ads, right? So Google now has this dilemma.
Are people clicking ads right now? I do searches. I just use the Gemini results, or that's it. You know.
I mean, how do they make money on ads, right? So like, what are you gonna do about that? Like, they clearly, their model is they have ads. And so it's interesting when Atlas released this on Tuesday, whenever it was, Google's stock or the company valuation or whatever, I think it went down by like 100 billion, which for them is drop in the bucket. But clearly the market noticed that Google has now a competitor. And so what is Google going to do? Right. So that's kind of like, I started thinking about that. I am not abandoning Chrome. I still have Chrome for like, I don't know, like other things, but I am playing with Atlas, and we'll see, maybe Atlas will pull me in completely, but Google now is a notice. So, you know, my bet that Google will add AI to Chrome and then just neuter just enough to protect ads. So which means they lose to Atlas long term because they can't go all in because they have to protect the advertising business. Then there's an Apple, you know, Apple has an advantage. They have no ad business to protect. They could make Safari full AI native tomorrow, but they're Apple, so they'll wait for like, what, 18 months, learn from everyone's mistakes, and then launch something that just works with half the features. And then there's dark horses like Brave. They've got 75 million users. I've never heard of Brave, have you?
Yeah.
All right. Well, they already first privacy with AI. That could be alternative. There's Arc, which I've never heard of them. And then there's Firefox. They only have 3% share. That's shrinking. It's losing ground. So the smaller browsers, no legacy issues, no ad business, they can move fast while Chrome and Safari figure out their strategy. So what do you think? What does this all mean for developers? Kind of what are your thoughts as the brain of this operation?
Well, we kind of talked about, like, you know, how pages need to be structured so the AIs can interact with them, read them, use them more effectively. That's not really it, though. The thing with this is we need to think about how we use browsers. Okay? The way it has been, maybe you do this. I'm not crazy enough to do this. I'll have 50 tabs open. I'm getting what I need here, and I'm kind of integrating, you know, what I'm picking up or whatever into my work, and I'm bouncing back and forth. I'll pull up another tab. I'll do another search. I'll maybe get some direction on this, and I go continue my tasks. What AI enhanced browsing can do is, like Ken mentioned, it's a perfect setup for creators who want to think with the content, not just watch it. Limo says it's not just Limo probably. It's an AI-powered assistant built on Chromium. All your web apps still work, but you got GPT baked right in for research, debugging, and automation. What it can do is like summarize your experience, almost like somebody sitting there taking notes. So you've got your browsing session open. You've gone to these different places. It's sort of summarizing what you're doing, and it's kind of helping you. It offers the potential to help you think about what you're doing in an augmented way, instead of just bouncing around and having a bunch of stuff that's maybe connected to you, sort of based on the task that you're trying to complete. This can actually like put together a document that actually does tie it together for you. It offers the ability for enhanced understanding and for clearer takeaways just from the information we're interacting with. That doesn't even go into the whole idea of the browser being able to take actions too. You know, you might have some picture based on what you've already got, and you say, okay, well, now based on this, I want to do this. And it can use that to help guide you in the right direction. So it sort of offers like navigation wayfinding capabilities in the information discovery landscape, which is also pretty cool. So I think we need to step back from this. Instead of like judging the browsers, we got to think this is a new modality. This is a new way of operating that is sort of like having a note taker there, you know, and somebody like sitting there bouncing ideas off of you. And so you can somehow, you know, develop a better product, so to speak, you know, take things to new places with, you know, synthesized, augmented information. Yeah.
Well, and then one thing I forgot to say is that Comet, actually, when it launched, it was like super hard to get. It was like $200 a month. It was expensive. And so I think once they got the whiff of this coming out, they dropped it's now $0, so you can get it for free. But again, if you look at this little, little snapshot over here, you can see like what they don't have, and neither does Chrome, is the memory, which is going to be very valuable, right? For going forward for users. Or maybe it will be creepy. I don't know, right? But again, like this is why if so many people are playing with this, maybe there will be somebody who will love it. I mean, I see benefits. It just is just me thinking like, how can I use this worker now? How can I use it for my benefit versus just try to patch it together, copy and paste, analyze, run reports, and all that stuff. So the jury is still out, but I am not deleting it. Like, I'm gonna keep playing with it because I still see there's potential.
Well, I said this on X earlier today, and it's something I want everybody to think about. I feel like kind of the general thinking about AI has been like getting it to regurgitate facts, getting us to tell us things we don't know or have questions about, that kind of thing, like this sort of like student-teacher relationship. But that's not it. That is not it. Our relationship with AI, you need to think about it in terms of what AI can do. You need to think about it doing stuff. And even with enhancement in the browser, when you're assimilating information, when you're trying to figure something out, when you're trying to put something new together, you are attempting to do, AI can do along with you. Not necessarily do the task, but to do the things that you need to get you to the next level so you can do the task. So AI is about doing. It is not about facts. It's not about information. That's not it. It is about doing.
Yeah, for sure. Anyway, well, what's your kind of overall takeaway from this before we kind of move on? Because this is a kind of a fascinating. I did not see this coming, but I guess people saw this coming, and it was just like another browser, great. But I actually considered playing with it because of the memory part. But what do you?
All
What's
the
your takeaway?
places where humans do a lot of interaction. We do a lot of interaction in the browser. We do a lot in spreadsheets and documents, things like that. In all those places, these are places where AI enhancement is absolutely an opportunity. Browsers are pretty stale. There hasn't been a lot of innovation in browsing, I mean, in 20 years to me. So I think this is a long time coming. This makes sense. Again, this is a high touch point. Browsers are a big touch point for people. Anything that's like that, you can expect some disruption. And, I think for like, Ken in here, like, I feel pretty confident Ken's going to figure out ways to enhance what he's doing with tools like this. And anyone who's kind of operating in a similar way is going to find some gains, I promise.
Yeah, no, 100%. So, and my takeaway from here is basically, Chrome will have to scramble, I guess, because again, they've got that ad business to protect. So I'm not sure what they're gonna do with AI and if they're gonna go full blown AI, because then how are they gonna expand that to the advertisers? But then I also think Atlas is making their ad game, right? Because we talked about that a couple of weeks ago, is monetization for them. They got to make money. And so I think Atlas is going to be that another play for them to serve the ads, or maybe the sites that are more optimized, I don't know, will get some kind of more visibility, or maybe they'll be bidding somehow, some way. But I have a feeling that the monetization on ads is coming to Atlas as well. Comet, I don't know what they're gonna do, but I know they have other things they've got in works. But I'm sure this is not a super helpful play for them either. So we'll watch out these wars and how they play out.
And should the URL bar, the URL bar used to be just for internet addresses, URLs. Then it was a search bar. It's going to be a prompt bar.
Now it's a prompt bar. That's what it is.
If it's a prompt bar,
I can ask any question now in my Atlas browser. It looks just like the prompt.
Yeah.
And I can ask questions. What did I do yesterday? Show me this and that. It's really.
So now it's a prompt. This would be a good segue into our next segment.
Yeah.
But it's a prompt bar. And if it's a prompt bar, what is really stopping someone like ChatGPT from just having the browser be a self-contained experience inside ChatGPT?
Yeah.
You've got the prompt. That's the same thing as the browser mechanism. Why are we having two pieces of software for this? Maybe it should all be in one place.
That's why we have the show, so you guys can think about this stuff, because I certainly do. Our car trips are very fascinating these days. I mean, they always were, but now they're even more fun. Moving on to the next segment, which is actually a really, really good segment to what. Do you want to pull up the visual? The next segment of the day is OpenAI trying to do too much. All right. I don't know about you, but I'm kind of getting this whiplash. OpenAI did this. OpenAI did this. They constantly try to release new things. every week, every other week, there's something. So to me, I have this visual of them juggling so many moonshots. I mean, they've got Sora, they've got ChatGPT, they've got Atlas, they've got gosh, what's that thing that we talked about the other day? Like there's like all these things. They've got government contracts, they've got all of these projects that they've created, that they've got, and they have all these commitments. So what are the commitments, right? The commitments are the commitments with Nvidia. I mean, they got to make a lot of money very, very fast. So I wanted to do this segment about which balls are they going to drop, right? And so that's what I wanted to talk about. So this is the visual of Sam Altman juggling all the balls over here. There's enterprise, there's cloud and infrastructure, there is Shopify, whatever, the App Store. I mean, oh my God, like I mean, can you keep up with what they have going on?
Since September 1st, it has been a dizzying pace of basically one pretty serious introduction into the market per week.
Right. And then they're also building a hardware device with Johnny Ive, the guy who designed the iPhone, supposed to launch next year. So their shopping features and testing, enterprise and government contracts expanding, and all of this while they're building data centers and infrastructure that won't even be done until 2028. Like, let's talk money. Like, how can you sustain this kind of momentum, right? So what's the money thing? What's the money situation? First half of this year, they made $4.3 billion in revenue. Sounds good, right? Well, except that they burned $2.5 billion in cash during the same period. So they've got about $17.5 billion sitting in the bank right now, which sounds like a lot, but they're projecting to burn over $8 billion this year alone. And so through 2029, they're planning to spend $115 billion on infrastructure. So basically, like, I like math. So when I do the math at a current burn rate, that's about a 2-year runway, maybe less if things speed up. And what's nagging at me, like every single one of these products, Atlas, Sora, hardware, enterprise, infrastructure, they all need the same things: GPU compute and top engineering talent and leadership attention and capital. They're not building just like one moonshot. They're building like 6 moonshots simultaneously. And they are doing this with one of the most complicated stakeholder structures I've ever seen.
Dun, dun, dun. We need the ominous music to
hi, Esther.
segue this.
Yeah. So, I mean, what are your thoughts, first of all, before we kind of move to the puppeteers of OpenAI, of who, because we think of OpenAI as they are the ones controlling everything. Well, guess what? They also have their owners, okay? And this is where it gets really interesting.
Talk about a tangled web.
I mean, maybe I should have the puppeteers over Sam Altman.
Before we go into this,
next meme,
I just want you to think about, as we go through who has stake in OpenAI, about each one of their personal incentives. Because I'm not seeing any alignment, and that does not seem like a good thing. But let's check it out. Let's talk
about who is in what is it, cahoots? What are you saying?
Who's in cahoots with OpenAI?
Who's in cahoots with everybody? Okay, let's talk about it. So the Microsoft. I mean, I knew they were in bed with them, but I didn't realize how much they were in bed with them. So they invested, I guess, $13 billion, and they get 49% of profits right now. And that's being renegotiated down to around 30%, because that's what they do. They kind of, they do all kinds of crazy things with everything. It was nonprofit first, now it's for profit. They've got a nonprofit board. It's super confusing. So they have exclusive rights to resell OpenAI on Azure until 2030.
Azure is the number 2 cloud hosting service or cloud hosting provider.
Here's the weird part. Microsoft doesn't actually own OpenAI. No equity, no board seats, no voting power, just profit sharing and agreements. But because of their really strange thing. But then basically if you look at the stake of some sort, because again, like no one owns it, but they kind of all own it. It's like 29% is Microsoft, which is kind of like crazy. And then 28% is their non-profit board. Maybe next time I should
So they have the biggest chunk of ownership, but the least control and no voting power.
Nuts. Then the next player, so Microsoft is number one. Next one is Nvidia situation. So last month, Nvidia announced they're investing up to $100 billion with a B, $1 billion in OpenAI. But here's the thing: Nvidia gives OpenAI cash. OpenAI uses it to lease GPUs from Nvidia, and then the money flows right back to Nvidia. Except now Nvidia also gets equity at $500 billion valuation. That's the valuation of OpenAI right now. It's a $500 billion company. So Nvidia is participating in the circle of financing. What can go wrong with that? What do you think?
I mean, everybody's kind of making a bet that they're all in this together. They're tying some fates here, at least a big chunk of fates. I think Nvidia has plenty of outs versus all the other people that are involved in this. I think Nvidia has the most defensible position. I think Microsoft is sort of like, well, OpenAI needs to win the AI race or they're going to be in trouble.
But why are they leasing GPUs and not buying them?
So they basically couldn't.
Why?
Because the investment's too high. They don't have the money.
Weird. Okay, well, let's basically like what happens if they can't.
Nvidia said you don't have to pay us for all those GPUs. We'll give them to you, but we want an ownership stake. It's just leverage.
But no one can truly own it. It's so crazy.
Well, they've got stake in that, and it's definitely the unicorn. Like if there's any unicorn right now, it's OpenAI. Now, I'm not feeling too good about it based on this segment, but
I mean, yeah, so they're getting paid for chips, getting equity, and still owning the hardware, which is really crazy. So Nvidia is player number 2, right? Like a pretty big one. Then there is the Stargate consortium. So earlier this year, OpenAI announced this thing called Stargate. It's partnership with SoftBank and Oracle to build AI data centers in the US. So $500 billion over 4 years. That's the scale they're talking about. Initial commitment was $100 billion. Trump was at the announcement. They framed it as strategic infrastructure, beating China. Hooray, hooray. But what I'm trying to figure out is like who's actually paying for that? Like SoftBank is supposed to be fronting a lot of capital, but like we all know their track record. I remember WeWork. Like that didn't go very well or end very well. So I guess Uber worked out. And then Oracle is providing a cloud infrastructure and getting paid for services, less risky position than the others. And then these data centers won't be operational until 2027, 2029. And OpenAI needs to survive until then to benefit from infrastructure that won't exist for years.
Let's do some quick math. It's 2025.
Right.
We think they have about 2 years of runway. That gives them late 2027. Data center is not operational until 2027 to 2029. Do we think these projects will complete on time?
I don't.
You are more optimistic than me if you do.
I don't think, unless you're Elon, I don't think it's gonna go on time. Like that guy can pull off stuff.
That's true. That is a good point.
But I mean, didn't he like build a Grok in like 3 months or something? Like pull something
November 2024, the chip acquisition was announced. And then Grok was operational at the end of January 2025.
I mean, something magical over there. But yeah. And then there's the Saudi Arabia wild card. There are talks about Saudi Arabia's public investment fund, and that's potential multi-billion-dollar investment. So there's that. No one quite knows. No one really has a lot of idea what's happening because it's private company, which is
I swear, anywhere you look in the world where stuff's happening, Saudi Arabia's PIF, Public Investment Fund, it pops up.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Exactly.
I mean, they're in sports, they're in, big compute.
Yeah. So let's look at the players. So Microsoft has the most money in lease control, and of course it wants acquisition. I mean, that's they wouldn't just give money for nothing. Nvidia owns the hardware, gets paid twice, can repossess. SoftBank, high risk tolerance, unpredictable, long-term bet. Oracle, transactional, less exposed. And Saudi, complicated, uncertain. And then nonprofit board, mission over profit.
Do we believe that?
No, I mean, I don't know who will believe that, but that's a lot of conflicting interest around one company burning $8 billion a year.
Where's the alignment? And there is natural conflict, but like, where's any alignment at all?
Yeah, in Russia we have this like a tale where you've got a cart with like a bird, like a swan, trying to fly with it, and then you've got this like lobster trying to get it in the water, and then they've got like some animal pulling it in the earth. So like everybody's trying to do in like all these different places. And what happens with the users, and what happens with ChatGPT, what happens with the mission, what happens with all these moonshots. I definitely don't want to be Sam Altman right now, but I don't know. So what are the scenarios, right? So we kind of talked about it. Microsoft could potentially take over, which I think is what they kind of really want to do. Nvidia can repossess, which I don't think they will really do that. Stargate can collapse. SoftBank pulls back. They've done it before. And then scenario 4, stakeholder conflict. This is a slow motion disaster, right? They all want different things. Nobody can agree on one direction. And then talent leaves, products drift, competitors gain ground. Because somebody said on the chat, it's a first mover advantage, but usually first mover advantage kind of gets burned. Those because the ones who execute, because execution is key. And if right now, like they've got all these big projects throwing on the wall and just hoping something will stick, I mean, I hope it does.
Well, a couple things are real here. First mover advantage matters. Like if we look at everything, it's all accelerating. Adoption of AI is accelerating way faster than adoption of internet, for example. So when things are accelerating that fast, your first mover advantage has less time to be effective. What I think is really going to happen here is OpenAI is sort of showing us all the landscape. Okay, these are the little battles that will be fought. Browsers, video production, various other things. Like how do people run their entire environment from such and such prompt interface? How much can we shove in there that's actually relevant and germane for people's daily usage? All that stuff, but they're not going to be able to pull off all of these things.
Nope.
And so what I think is likely, so Elon Musk has this thing that he likes to say from time to time. He's like, usually the most entertaining outcome wins. Well, Microsoft taking over is the most boring outcome possible. So we'll rule that out based on this heuristic, which may or may not be right. But really the most interesting is sort of that it shows the way, and then there's all these battles that play out in each specific vertical where this stuff really matters. And we get to see some fireworks because, like I said, the pace is going to be fast. First mover advantage is almost nullified. So that means the products have to be good and amazing to us to draw, tug of war users over to this side or that side. So that seems like the most entertaining outcome for people. So I think that's what's going to happen. I do not see OpenAI blowing up to become this Borg, like the new Borg, like it was Google. Apple was a big Borg. Even some social media things were kind of Borgs in terms of controlling attention on the internet. Do we really think OpenAI is going to be the next big Borg? Like maybe, but it just doesn't feel like it to me.
Well, right now, I don't really know like what's their one thing yet, and maybe there wouldn't be one thing. Who knows? But think about like, okay, so they have what, close to like $1 trillion, and they committed to like close to $1 trillion in infrastructure deals. And like as an like investor, like you probably want some return on investment. So like even to generate like 10% return on that, because again, it's not a public company, they got to generate some kind of return or just keep burning money, I guess. So they'll need like 100 billion in annual profit. They need $100 billion in profit, not revenue. I mean, how are you going to create revenue right now? Like they're what? Like they're nowhere close to that.
No, they're at like 4%.
So I think they're going to be under a lot of pressure trying to figure out how to sell, how to use all their users, and then what happens.
Well, I should have prepared this, but I think of 800 million users, I think only something like 42 million are paying. It's a real small percentage of
It's
their
it's
total
like
users.
5% of users are actually paying, so they're not really making money on that. So
Yes,
they're
Kim,
they're,
yes.
but they're literally grabbing users, which is like 800 million users a week or something like that. So it's a lot, but you know, like it's fascinating to watch this because it's not as straightforward as we think, and I have a feeling that very heated board meetings. And they're only about to get more heated because once you got all this money, what are you gonna do? You know, kind of like that hamster with the food. Now what? So what does that mean? Like, I guess, like, listen, I don't think OpenAI is gonna go away. It's probably gonna, like, you know, settle down and do something else. Like, I don't know what other products can they possibly be coming out next. Like, I just want
Just
them
stay
to
tuned for next week's show.
I mean, they'll probably surprise with something else, probably. But basically, like, what's gonna happen? But you know, they've got the cash. They're not public, so they don't have to, you know, report to the public or whatever, or with their stock, so they can do whatever they can. But when the stakeholders start pulling in different directions, like whose interest gets prioritized, it's not going to be users. And I just want whoever's watching this right now just to kind of understand, like, the landscape of things and where do you fit into that and how what you build fits into that, because there is a lot of different risks, you know, that come with that, and obviously a lot
Let's
of
go over a
opportunity.
couple of those cases.
All right.
If you're building embedded AI in software, you should not be wedded to a single AI model. Like, don't just be ChatGPT. Don't just be Claude. That situation is fluid. You should probably be playing around with them all anyway, because, like I said, it's a constant car race with shifting positions. This one's in first. Now this one's in first. So, I mean, that kind of comes with the territory. You know, I think using the tools that come out is actually really wise. And even if there ends up not being continuity, like, you know, Atlas gets shuttered for some reason, I don't think it's going to happen. I think this is actually pretty revolutionary in terms of browsers. I think that directionally this is aligned with the future. You know, get comfortable with those tools so you understand that you're going to be more adaptable in the future if something else becomes the answer. Like, it was Firefox versus Internet Explorer in the original browser wars. Well, who won the browser wars? Chrome. So, but if you knew Firefox, you were ready to step into Chrome.
But
So
why do you
know
think
the new
Chrome won
thing.
that war? Like, what did they have that they won? Like, how did they win?
Chrome was more developer friendly. Chrome's
Oh.
inspector console was better than the one that Firefox provided, and it was a little leaner and faster. And I think it also met people where they were. I forget what exactly happened, but I want to say like 2008, Firefox ran into some problems. There was a little bit of slowness. They had a couple updates that weren't working right with Mac OS, and like fonts were rendering weird and spacing was weird, like just little hiccups along the way. And then Chrome, of course, when Chrome got introduced, people were excited because it's sort of like everyone was using Gmail. If Google introduces this thing, you should probably pay attention. And that was enough. Like, it would Firefox, you know, as Netscape became Firefox, that wasn't enough of a brand. Like, if you're a mini brand upstart and you've got these giant brands who come out with a product in your space, you're on notice.
Yeah.
And Chrome was good enough that it won that.
So, any other takeaways before I move on?
Nope. Let's move on.
All right. Well, I hope this was helpful for your segment of understanding the AI world. How do you fit into that? And who is building what kind of moat? And what can you do to be informed so you can do the best thing for you? Because that's what I want you all to think about. Anyway.
Oh, also, this is a live show. We love when you guys are participating here in the chat.
Oh, my favorite part.
You know, like next week, I would love it if some of you guys came back and really shared your experience with Atlas. Like, what'd you do? What new like modality did you see because of this type of browsing? This new layer that's on top of that. Like, we want that feedback.
Yeah,
we can't do it all.
And I love. Somebody said Apple has been playing safe. I actually think, you know who else has been playing safe? Meta. I don't see a lot of things. Meta. Very funny. Anyway, exactly. So that's kind of yeah, that's exactly, like, to me, they're just watching. I mean, Apple is sitting on a lot of cash. They don't have to worry about it. I think Google is sweating probably because they're actually on notice. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Probably next week will be a ton of stop again. Moving on to segment 3, and this segment is actually a very practical one. So we are going to talk about this interview with that I watched with Atlassian. How do you say it?
Atlassian
SEO, CEO. CEO. Okay, Atlassian CEO Mike Cannon Brooks. That he did with Harry Stebbings from 20 VC. Great interview. And what really, there's a lot of interesting things they talked about, because the guy actually has a lot of, I guess, a lot of practical applications, because they work with a lot of clients. And so there's a lot of practical things that they've already tried. So it was fascinating to watch and hear like what's happening in the real world right now, not just some theory. And so recommend, go check it out, go watch it on YouTube. But I really picked just 2 things that we want to talk about today that that I think are very relevant to what's going on. So the first story I want to talk about is design wins. So when you build an AI feature, it works. GPT-4 powers it, but your competitors have access to GPT-4 too. Well, now it's GPT-5, right? Is it still GPT-4?
It's coming. I don't know if
the model advantage lasted 6 weeks. So like, what separates your product from theirs? Right? So everybody has access to the same model, which is kind of, I don't want to say free, but I guess it's kind of free. And so what Atlassian did, they invested heavily in design talent for AI features. He said, software gets cheaper to create. What differentiates it now is how it feels and works. That's very hard to copy. So he's not talking about buttons. He's talking about, does AI feel like it understands the actual workflow, and do customers choose to use it or just tolerate it?
I have a little heuristic I use here.
Okay.
And that is, I just consider my delight in using some software. Is it actually delightful? Does it feel like it's elevating in some way? Or is it like you figured it out? If it's a you figured it out, time to refactor. If it's delightful, you're hitting the right buttons there. Software should be delightful. It should feel powerful. It should feel like it's enhancing. It should be delightful to use.
Well, like when I first got the Atlas browser, it was weird because I had to look for the search window. But then once I saw it, I was like, oh my God, it's a prompt window. I can put anything I want in there. It could be like I'm searching for like a thing, or I can actually ask the question. And I think that's what kind of blew my mind. I think that's what he talks about, is that it's not the model, it's the UX, right? So like what, because you love design. So what does it tell you now? Like what does that mean?
Well, I'll give you an example. So within PageMotor, I built in that prompt we've shown in a couple of the episodes. And you can type in the prompt, you say, create me a new page, and it does this thing. That experience is so much better if when you create the page, the feedback you get from the AI, it says, okay, here you can go look at your page. Here's how you can edit your page. Here's the thinking that went into this, like some actual stuff to go along with it. And also like next steps in your workflow. Like, okay, you did this, but now you want to do this. It's like helping you navigate, help giving you the contextual information you need around this. Oh, it's not just this thing. Okay, by the way, here's some social media content for you to use to promote it. It's never just, we don't do any actions in isolation. And increasingly, UX is going to have to speak to this like more holistic set of operations that we do to do what we do. And so when you do a thing with AI, it needs to kind of help you paint that whole picture.
And I think what's interesting is that what did we notice, that like AI users are mostly under 26 years old, like half,
Yep.
50% are under 26 years old. So like so what that means for those that are not 26 and under, there's going to be like this hurdle of rethinking how this actually works now. Because even like when I got the Atlas yesterday, I was like, oh God, it's weird. Yeah. Like I had to re-engage some of my cells in my brain that did not want to be engaged, because the brain loves familiarity. And then it's kind of like you have to be like, okay, but I gotta commit to it and I want to like experiment. So I think when you are dealing with users that are not under 26, there's going to be that pushback. Like, why do we need to do it this way? Why do we have to do AI native? Why do we have but because that's what winning is. Like, you've got to go with the flow, literally. And I try to bring a lot of ideas to the show, what makes AI native product look AI native. But this the browser that Atlas is a very good example of that.
Yep.
All right. So what can you so I guess you already talked about like how we can test it and what the takeaway is, but any other takeaways before we talk about your favorite thing, pricing?
I know. No, let's talk about pricing. So I love this little segment they did about pricing, and they actually released a couple like videos on X, like little short, like minute and a half or less, like really insightful, like almost the highest potency videos I've seen recently. But we're talking about pricing. Okay, so you got an AI native product that involves prompts, which involves token usage, which involves continuous fees for somebody. Now you got to put a price on that. The obvious answer is to do something consumption based, to say like, okay, for $20 a month, you get this tier, you get this many tokens or whatever. Unfortunately, people hate this. People hate this. The reason why is because tiering is innately complicated. If you got like 3 tiers, everyone's got to you got to understand the pricing structure. Well, I got 3 tiers. This much is this much is this, that kind of thing. There's some expectation that if you pay a lot, like for a premium level, that you're sort of going to be allowed to do what you want. And when you hit limits there, that's not great. So like no one on the pricing spectrum is happy with this. The little guys have to understand something that's more complicated than what they need. The big guys maybe want more than they feel like they can get. And so it just, when this is played out and tested, people don't like it. Okay. And you might think, well, this is kind of the nature of the beast. This is how it needs to be priced. Well, we've got a clear problem here. We don't have incentive alignment for customers and businesses. So we got to find a solution. That this implies that like SaaS-based pricing structures, per seat licensing, consumption-based pricing, we're going to have to find a new answer here that looks a little different than the ones we've had before, because customers increasingly don't like it. We know there's subscription fatigue, event horizon waiting out there where people are going to cut everything that's not completely critical. So we got to figure out a new answer.
So hold on. So I want to make sure we're clear on this. So consumption-based pricing, the biggest reason they don't like it is because it's unpredictable. So
so if you're a high volume user, you'd want a discount.
Right.
If you offer just one standard tier that ratcheted up linearly, no matter how much you used, people are going to be dissatisfied on one end of the spectrum or the other, or possibly along the whole thing. So it's very difficult. That becomes complicated. How many tiers do you have? How do you define each tier? You're actually making arbitrary judgments about where the cutoffs are. Anytime you do something arbitrary, anytime you are making arbitrary decisions, even about stuff like that, you are introducing a natural inefficiency. You're making a guess. And when you make a guess, you've become very inaccurate for some portion of that thing you're trying to capture. And when you do that, like you're basically introducing this much unhappiness into the results. So arbitrary is bad.
But so far, Claude is using consumption-based pricing, right? So you get the tokens, you buy tokens. The more tokens you need, the more you buy. And if you don't need a lot, then you buy less or more. So
there's a little caveat there, is they have models that they introduce continually that lower the consumption price of your tokens.
Okay.
So suddenly your stack of gold is worth a little bit more, but they still have the problem of the confusion and the complexity. Well, which model do I use? Which one do I really need? People aren't totally confident about the model they're using. I talked to a guy who loves using Opus. I'm quite sure that for what he's doing, he doesn't need Opus. He could use Sonnet. It would probably be just as good, if not maybe faster and cheaper. And now I think he could probably use Haiku.
Yeah.
But he's not going to go for that.
Why not? So Esther says, with Gemini, I never know ahead of time, and I don't like that. So there's that, gotcha, all right? Like, you don't know, you can find out.
Yep, you just pay what we tell you to pay.
Come to the restaurant, we'll show you the bill later. I don't like that either. And then
this said market value. It's $300.
I know. And then there's the value-based pricing, right? So year 1, you prove efficiency, saves money. Year 2, customer says, you already proved it costs this much. Why am I paying the same?
I don't understand that. Do you understand that? I don't understand.
Value-based pricing, I think it's like what value you get.
Well, in year 1, you prove that whatever efficiency your product offers saves that person money. In year 2, the customer said, you already proved it costs this much. Why
So-
am I paying the same? Like,
so you save the money, that efficiency that he introduced saved the money. So why do you have to pay on the value again? Why
well,
can't we just
presumably
pay-
they're using it continually and always getting that efficiency gain.
Well, and then so let's say it's $100, and then the efficiency they got, it's actually like they did it in $80. And then they're like, well, why can't I just pay $80, even though you save? So it's kind of like you are reinforcing the behavior that they may not, they don't see the big picture. It's like, well, we saved you money, you did all of this stuff, and maybe somebody has a better explanation. But
well, I think you actually are kind of touching on the real situation there. And I deal with this, and I know companies have to confront this. So let's say I've had Focus for years. It's $87 a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I've sold it for so long at $87 a year, and that's your renewal price, like I might like to lower the annual renewal to $47. That might be something I'd want to do.
Okay.
But that would absolutely kneecap my recurring revenue. The idea behind that move would be to increase customer satisfaction and also make it an attractive thing for new business, new customers.
Okay.
They say, oh, I like this compared to other pricing models. I'm going to do this because that seems to more capture my value curve or my perception of the value curve. But unless you have the new customer onboarding and new customer acquisition to justify it, for almost any company that already has products and pricing out there, they would just be taking a massive revenue hit.
Well, so think about it this way.
It
Like,
would never change.
do you know how if you go to the dentist, right, and the dentist will say, listen, we can do this work with your nerve canal, and it's going to cost you $100 if I do it in basically, do you want to do it faster, or do you want to do it slower, right? Because we can charge you by the hour, like we can do it, and it'll cost you like $100, or it'll cost you $100 in 2 minutes. But and the customer's like, well, why do I have to pay you $100 for 2 minutes if you can give me an hour of your time and then just do my canal the whole hour? And you'll be like, I don't want that pain, because I want it to be done in 2 minutes, not a whole hour. So then instead of them doing $100 an hour, now they're doing 30 canals in that hour, and they're making all that money in that hour because the customer doesn't want that pain in the ass, basically. So the value-based pricing, I think people are playing with that. But with value-based pricing, if somebody tells me, well, why would I have to pay you, Chris, $1,000 for your website if your software now can do this, for $100? Well, because you've got all this experience to tweak it and do it. So once you offer the service, so it's kind of that's where I'm sort of playing with the whole value. But maybe I missed some point.
Well, let's talk about some real pricing that everybody can relate to.
Yeah.
SaaS pricing.
Right.
Per seat, recurring pricing, recurring annual pricing. We'll just say, could be monthly, but we'll just say annual. And in this little discussion, in this kind of survey they did, the CEO of Atlassian says that he's not sure that SaaS pricing will survive the AI era without some changes. And I tend to agree with this, at least directionally. I think this is on point. We know from companies that have been doing SaaS-based pricing that there is a lot of dissatisfaction out there with the way those services work. It always gets more expensive. They add on features, but most of those features customers don't need. All those feature add-ons are really aimed at acquiring new customers, and yet the customers who are on retainer, they're paying for that largesse that is not even relevant to them. They already paid for the software. Presumably it already did what they needed. They don't need these feature add-ons. It's certainly not enough to justify the price of admission. So people don't like that. So here's what he concludes. He says, it's not going to go away, but it needs guardrails. It needs usage limits, clear tiers, and bundled AI features. I actually feel like that kind of contradicts his earlier statement about them not wanting the tiers, because that's introduces complexity. It's hard to understand. You maybe have arbitrary cutoffs at one tier to another. He says, per seat models aren't dead. They just need simple guardrails and some consumption elements mixed in. That's the safest world right now. If I take this in my interpretation of it, where I feel comfortable, it looks something like this. a low annual fee to like be a member at this country club, we'll say. You pay a low annual fee, skin in the game to be there. From there, you have consumption-based pricing based on what you use. You use the dining hall, so you will pay for the dining hall.
Mhm.
You use the golf course, you will pay for that. You don't use the pool, you don't use the tennis courts, you will not be paying for those things. You paid to get in the door, you paid the door charge. It's a small annual fee, and then you paid for what you used. Whereas with the country club, an actual country club, you're paying for all the amenities, whether you use them or not. So, I love what Sly in DC says. We are tired of subscriptions. You put that up there. Yes, you're not alone, man. Everyone is. And especially now with inflation running out of control, everyone's got to make decisions about the stuff they want to hold on to. And for me specifically, my niche is websites.
Mhm.
It's out of control. It's out of control. Your people paying $200 a year for forms on their website. Like, what do you got? You got a contact form and maybe some service lead generation form or something like that. Is that worth that much a year? Probably not, gang. But AI is introducing the wrinkle here because to use the AI tools, you have to pay tokens, so it's more pay as you go. So we're moving in a direction where we'll be able to pay for what we use. The trick is going to be to make pricing simple without getting into the tiering and the complexity of that, like, oh, at this level, it's this much. At this level, it's this much. I talked about last week or the week before, I have what I think is the best solution here, or at least that I've come up with so far. And that is that like Claude, ChatGPT, Grok, they need to be able to have an intermediary or like an affiliate relationship with creators who put prompts in their software, who do embedded AI prompts. Through that arrangement, if you're using PageMotor, which has an embedded AI prompt, you could buy credits to Grok through there. You could buy credits to ChatGPT through there and credits to Claude. They would then pay PageMotor some percentage of that consumption-based usage. So you would always just be knowing their prices. It doesn't matter what PageMotor's cost is. You're just paying that price to get the tokens from the AIs that you're going to use. So you know what their structure is. You're only dealing with them. You're not dealing with PageMotor and having all these 50 software fees. You're just having your relationships with the AI, compute, and then PageMotor is able to get paid through that relationship. But that never really had to come up. It didn't have to come up in pricing that was presented to you. You didn't have to consider this extra layer. The only layer you had to consider was your consumption of the AI model, which to me seems really nice. We have to consider something. We have to consider our cost per action. If we can only consider it at the root point of the AI itself, that seems like the simplest possible way to like divvy this out among the entire landscape. But if we think we're going to be in some world where you're paying for like 6 different online services and the AI tiered AI charges for each one, not happening. Not happening. I've seen 3 products roll out recently, WordPress-based ones that do this. And I'm like, they're going to get a little bump for a short time because people are interested in this. And then it's going to fall off like a cliff.
So, okay, that's about like using AI for coding and stuff. What about AI as a service? The joke. Does it even make sense?
What's the answer to this? Does it even make sense? Yes, it makes sense because you continually query the AI and there's a cost per action, a cost per usage on that. If the AI is actually doing something for you, not just fetching facts or like chatbot, no. But if the AI is actually doing something for you, performing some function, building your website, creating some content, doing an SEO strategy, doing a social media content strategy and rolling stuff up for you, making a video. If it's doing those kinds of things, then that consumption-based pricing absolutely makes sense and is sort of an unavoidable thing. Something we don't think about enough is that we are already living in a world and always have been living in a world where you're paying for every little thing that you do. We just don't actually pay that way. We pay in big chunks. And then it actually gets, amortized out over the entire landscape. But every time you hop in your car, that trip you take in the car costs you some amount of money. It costs you in gas. It costs you in tire wear. It costs you in wear to the vehicle. It costs you in the road.
The tolls.
Very slightly damaged. and you pay taxes, that go to repairing those roadways and stuff like that. So there is some cost. You went to the coffee shop and you spent $6 there. The cost of the trip in the car might have been $2.17. You don't think about it that way, but that's certainly what it was already there. So you had a cost per action there that you had already paid in gross through paying your car insurance, through having tires that were already put in your car, through paying for gas that you'd already put in your car. So you had a cost per action. You don't really know what it is because we haven't been on a perfectly granular consumption-based model before, but that was already there. And with AI, it's just more in your face.
So, and then I want to kind of pull back a little bit. Like, for example, I'm working on something where it's going to be like a product, right? That uses a lot of AI that for consumers. And so we were talking about like, how do we price for this, right? Because we pay for AI access, we pay for all that stuff, and the user comes in and experiences the product that helps them, in their life. And so what we're focusing first is design first and trying to understand, like, can we truly help this user with the product? And then we're going to try the pricing. It has to be a subscription for now, because we got to keep optimizing and the customer is using the AI. So the meter is running, but I guess we're going to have to reevaluate the margins once it's happening, because it's kind of like a wild, wild west in a way. But, but we're kind of starting with like, how do we solve the consumer's problem and then see how much will actually be worth it? What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, so we're doing this great sorting right now where we're trying to figure out what works and what people will accept. I think in your case, what you are building would be seen as an essential level up service for certain types of people. I think that is a subscription they'd be willing to pay for. I also think it's one they're going to have a limited engagement, like for 3 to 6 months, and then probably spin out of that once they feel like they've got the value that they needed to get. I think the challenge becomes when, like, if you can look at that and say, okay, this is the life cycle of a customer. Here's what your likely lifetime spend is. That's actually really refreshing. I'll pay a subscription that I know is going to end. It's the ones that are open-ended, could last forever, that I don't like. I'm going to pay $100 a year for this website component. Well, is it going to go up to $200 a year next year? I've got all these other components. What's my spend going to be? It's going to go out of control. So I don't have a cap on that. That stinks. That's what people don't like. So I think we're going to see more things emerging where you say, okay, look, here's what it is. It's this much for 6 months. This is going to be your total cap spend. You'll have maybe some stuff we'll figure out, like games have already figured this out. You have ways for them to spend more once they're inside the app for these other level ups. And that's going to be we're going to see more of that happening in business.
Gamifying it.
Yep.
So what's the takeaway from this? Because this is a very practical way, like for those who are building products and services with AI, like what would you say is the biggest takeaway here?
Pricing has got to be simple. It's got to be simple, and it has to be honest. If you know that there is a cap on this, like we want to have infinite customers paying us infinite money forever, that's not realistic anymore, and that's dying. Subscription fatigue is real. The event horizon is upon us. You should prepare and plan accordingly. Now, simple pricing is a total win. It is really hard to do. It feels like a unicorn, especially when you have consumption-based stuff happening. So what you can do about consumption-based stuff is be super honest, or we could have some little new variable, such as the arrangement I described, where the people who have products that you use with prompts in them are actually getting paid by the big AIs, so you never had to really deal with that. All you did was pay for your cost per action. To me, that is by far the most palatable arrangement. You just know that when I use AI, it costs some little bit of money. I pay a toll. Great. At least I didn't have to think about all this other stuff. That is one avenue to simple pricing. But it's, so people need reassurances that the costs aren't going to spiral out of control forever. If it is an annual sort of arrangement, people kind of assume that the price is going to go up, and that's going to introduce a lot of uncertainty in their environment. Not good. And maybe this will result, like I already touched on this, but businesses getting a better handle on the life cycle of their customers. We got to stop viewing things as infinite. That's not realistic.
Yeah. I mean, it's good for business, not good for customer. I think that's going to be changing as well. And interesting. All right.
It's another point of differentiation. We talked earlier about like the AI model is not the differentiator. What is? Well, pricing models promise maybe number one point of differentiation in the future.
Well, unless you offer some kind of value what they can't really get anywhere else, then yeah. But like the whole point of even like today's show is the barriers getting so low to entry. How do you separate yourself? Like
Right.
how do you stand out, and how do you have people pay you money for something that they can go and talk to ChatGPT about or
Well, I'm
whatever?
curious if the audience thinks this is more honest. To me, this feels a little more honest than like the annual fee kind of arrangement where you don't really know what you're paying for and probably going to be paying too much.
Yeah,
But
economics.
let's say you have, like I said, the country club fee that's small. You pay to get in the door. It's a nominal amount. But then once you're inside the building, you have opportunities to, oh, if you want to do this, it will cost you this much. If you want to do this, like spell out clear outcomes, connect actions to outcomes. And then I think
Mhm.
people will be more likely to pay for these things. And it could be something that they volunteer to do a lot. Like, I want to actually pay for this outcome 26 times while I have the service.
Right.
But I'm not paying an annual fee. I'm paying every time I do it. So it is consumption based, but with a little bit of a twist. It's sort of like a hybrid of the way that games do it. Well, if you want to buy these enhanced items within the game, you can pay $5 or whatever. You're already doing the service. It's a small fee, one that's palatable to you, and now you're choosing what stuff you want to do to like add additional leverage to whatever you're getting out of this thing.
Yeah. Definitely lots to think about. So hopefully that sparked some kind of thinking for you guys with what you're building. So moving on, next segment of the day is about a new skill that is emerging. And this is
No, it's what
actually,
can you learn from a 14-year-old?
well, what can you learn from 14-year-old? This is do you have our Dharmesh?
Oh, I do. Wait for it.
So this came from Dharmesh's newsletter, which I
Hold on.
love to read. And so
It's
he
our
actually
mesh time.
their mesh time. So he talked about, so in his weekly newsletter this week, he shared something that he thinks may change how you use AI starting today, which obviously caught my attention. So for those of you who don't know, Dharmesh is the CTO of HubSpot. He is very much into AI, and he's got a 14-year-old who's been playing with AI since, I guess, Dharmesh had access himself back in like GPT-2 or something like that. And so the new skill that he talked about that his son taught him was this thing called simulation thinking. So what is simulation thinking? It's treating AI not as a tool that answers questions, but as an engine that explores possibilities you haven't considered yet. So most of us ask, what's the answer to X? Simulation thinking asks, what happens if X? What breaks? What works? What if I tried Y instead? And you're exploring the possibility space, not looking for the answer. So here's the example. His son uses ChatGPT to build fantasy worlds. He feeds it massive prompts describing entire universes and then asks, what happens if I do this? What if I change that? What if I break this rule? So when Dharmesh asked why he tries impossible things, his son said, well, why wouldn't it work? It's supposed to be able to do everything. No preconceptions, just experimentation. So he kind of borrowed this for business decisions at HubSpot. So he loads up ChatGPT with context, product strategy constraints, runs simulation, like what happens if we launch this product? What will break? Get multiple perspectives. If I pitch this to our VP of sales, our head of product, a customer, a VC, what would each say? So he's not asking the AI to decide, he's using it to see angles he might miss before walking into real meetings. So first of all, what do you think about this before we make this real?
I mean, I really like the idea of using AI for simulation, for experimental contexts, and that kind of thing. I like it. Obviously we talked. It's got the 14-year-old in the segment here, but like that kind of modality where you're just playing around and seeing what you can do is very much like that was me as an early teenager playing around with software and games in the 90s. Like I totally was doing that. I used to go to school early, not to do homework and stuff or catch up, because I wanted to play around in the computer lab and see what I could do. There was a piece of software called HyperCard for the old Macs that I just loved. Like I kept discovering new cool things I could do with it. So I just what's possible. I love that modality.
Well, I like how you said, why wouldn't I? I can do anything.
Yeah.
And so I like that there's no limitation. So let's make this real, okay? So let's say you're a freelance designer trying to figure out your pricing strategy. So you've been charging hourly at $100. You're maxed out and turning away work. And then you ask ChatGPT, should I raise the old approach? Should I raise my rates? But simulation thinking approach is this. Load the context. I'm a freelance designer. Current rate is $100 an hour. Booked solid for 3 months, turning away 2 to 3 projects weekly. Clients are startups and small agencies. Projects typically run 40 to 80 hours. That's your context. Then you simulate. What happens if I raise my rate to $150 an hour, model out 3 scenarios, I lose 50% of inquiries, I lose 25, I lose none. What does my revenue look like in each? What types of clients do I attract at each price point? I like this one, the last one. What types of clients do I attract at each price point? And then get perspective. Give me the reaction to this pricing change from a current client who loves my work, a startup founder with limited budget, an agency that refers me work, and a senior designer who's been freelancing for 10 years. So now you're seeing the decision from multiple angles. The agency might say that puts you in line with other contractors, actually makes it easier to book you. The startup founder might reveal concerns you could address with different package structure, and a senior designer might point out positioning opportunities you hadn't considered. So you iterate, okay, what if instead of raising hourly rates, I moved to project-based pricing? What if I kept my rate but added a 3-month minimum retainer? What if I created tiers? So
no tears. No,
anyway, but here the framework is, again, it requires thinking, which I think not a lot of people want to do, but it's kind of like, how do you ask these questions for simulation for something that before you just wanted AI to give you the answer? What do you think about that?
Well, so Esther says, it sounds interesting, but I'm not sure how reliable it could be. And that kind of dovetails with what you just asked me, because it's not about whether or not that information is correct. It's getting a feel for directionally what you can expect if you do this thing. Like that 14-year-old wanted to know, well, if you change the rules of this universe he just created, what might be some of the consequences? Like, help me get a feel for what would happen if such a thing were to occur. A lot of times what people find when they raise their rates is that inquiries maybe didn't go down as a total, or maybe went down 10%, but the quality of the people they were attracting actually went up. So they actually had more inquiries from better customers. So it's it's not always intuitive. It's definitely not linear the way this stuff works. And I think AI, this type of experimentation, could be useful for finding some direction there, like saying, okay, maybe this is something I want to play with. Or, ooh, that looks like something that I would maybe not. Is AI going to be spot on all the time? No, but it does have a wealth of published experience to draw from. And so I think that's at least worth examining. It's sort of like if you were going to undertake the same process, but you don't have AI. You would go get as much information as possible and try to draw conclusions from that. Well, that's what the AI is doing. It's just saving you much time.
So the real framework is, again, I had to put my mind around this. So pick a real decision: pricing, feature prioritization, messaging strategy, anything you're actually wrestling with. Then you load the context. Don't be stingy. Give AI tool everything: constraints, goals, what you know about the situation. Then run simulations. What happens if I do X? What breaks? What works? Then what if I do Y instead, and just go kind of imagine, right? Because that's what one thing AI cannot do. It cannot imagine, really. And then you get multiple perspectives, 3-5 different stakeholders: customer, competitor, team member, whoever is relevant, and then take the most interesting objection and dig deeper. If that's the concern, what if I? So this is an interesting way to solve a problem that I will definitely be trying this week, because I haven't thought about simulation thinking at all.
I haven't really done it either.
What would happen if that's a very, our 4-year-old is amazing at questions. Like, he's constantly asking why, what would happen. And I think we as adults kind of just want the answer. And I feel a little nervous of simulation thinking, like, what the heck is that? But it sounds really delightful, especially to some of the challenges I've been solving, like around our content and how do we get it across more people and this and that. So I'll be playing with that for sure. Anyway, any takeaway from you for you from this?
I kind of think there's a larger picture thing in play here.
Tell me.
When we enter into a new era, a new age where things are changing, our basic modalities, the way we operate, where these things are changing, you can capture some really big wins and some delight. And I honestly focus more on that part of the equation when you engage in more childlike, experimental, what if sort of thinking. We have to acknowledge that as adults, especially if you're like over 40, you're probably locked into a bunch of stuff that's not really that creative anymore. You might think it is, but it's probably really locked in, especially compared to that 14-year-old. So now is you got a time, a license, like a get out of jail free card here to experiment, be childlike, be playful, see what is possible. And there's actually things to be gained from doing that. You don't have to like sit here and chastise yourself like, oh, I should be working on this right now. Like, no, you might be missing the biggest pie that you're likely to see for the rest of your life. And you won't see it because you're not allowing yourself to play.
Play. I like that. This is great. This is a very good point of AI. And these are emerging people that are coming in to play with all of us because they're growing up and they're using AI in their interesting way that we can definitely learn from of how they think, which is, I mean, they're talk about AI native. They are, right? Like they don't know the world another way.
I want AI native brain.
I know, this is great. Anyway, so pick a decision this week, load the context, run the simulation, and see what emerges. And then I'll report back to the mothership. Anyway, moving on. Next segment is the one that really shook me yesterday when I read the news. And it's about Grok changing the rules of how Grok and X, how they're going to change the rules of curating information on X.
Let me set this up.
Go.
So if you use X, which is my favorite social media platform by far, ever since it's been Twitter, I've been absolutely in love with Twitter. I love the real-time interaction. I love that people are sharing actual words and thoughts. Like it felt like to me that was where the old conversation of the blogosphere moved over to Twitter. And it continued like that. You had instant audience. You got people talking back and forth in the comments, like that kind of thing. The pace of it, I love everything about it. And what has happened though with X, they introduced monetization and they introduced something called the For You feed. So it was just people you were following, you would see their stuff. But that really is limited and actually gets old pretty quick, especially if you're not like a highly involved person who really looks in a lot of different places, for content. It gets pretty stale. So they introduced the For You feed to combat this. The For You feed is a quasi-curated feed based on a few things. Total virality within the system. So if something goes viral everywhere, the For You algorithm is going to say, yeah, you probably need to see this, even if it's not like in your direct sphere of stuff. Like, I only want to see golf content. Well, this is politics, but everyone's talking about this right now. You should probably see this. That would make the feed. Stuff that gets a lot of likes real fast. So this can be gamed with like bots. If you pay for a bunch of bot likes, you can kind of game this and get stuff going into the For You feed. Stuff that gets a lot of replies. If people you follow are replying to certain things, that type of content will bubble up. You've also got stuff that you viewed. Like it knows like you viewed this, you're into, golf content. So you're going to see a lot of golf content, that kind of thing. So it's based on interests. But interest is like one small part of the equation. The rest is human interaction and virality. And those things, unfortunately, can be gamed. And when X introduced monetization, it put a premium on using those tools to get more attention into specific corners. And it has resulted in a narrowing cone of content that hits the For You feed. It's all kind of samesies. It's the same memes. It's the same sort of slop, engagement slop. And it's even people, breaking news, but it's like 9 accounts break the same news and they all get 500,000 views on their posts. And you see this 9 times in your feed. Like it's become less effective because of that. And it's like if you I've said this before in the context of Google and other systems. If you have a system that can be gamed and you run it long enough, it's going to get gamed into slop.
Yep.
This is a problem. So if humans are involved and the thing can be gamed, they will game it. It will eventually turn to slop. What do we do?
So what X announced this past week is that in 6 weeks, they're killing the engagement algorithm. No more likes, retweets, replies, determining your feed. Instead, Grok, their AI, just reads everything and decides what you see. So my first reaction was like, wait, is that better or worse? Because we've spent a decade complaining about engagement algorithm, right? And people complain about that. But now we're getting something completely different. So, and I'm not sure we're ready for it yet.
Well, let's go back. So the algorithm before was mostly based on human interaction, reposts, replies, likes, all that kind of thing, saying, hey, this is what humans are into. This is what you're going to want to see. And now in 6 weeks, X is going to remove that element entirely and hand all that over to AI.
So here's the facts. Grok reads 100 million posts a day. So it's not counting your likes or measuring engagement. It's analyzing content directly, language, context, whatever signals it's trained on, which we don't know, and curating feeds based on that. So 6 weeks until this is live. They're also testing keeping people in app when you click links, which, we'll come back to that. But here's where my brain goes immediately. Like, what does Grok think is good content, right? Because with engagement metrics, we knew the rules, even if we didn't like them. Controversy got amplified, emotion got distributed, algorithm was predictable, even if it was broken. But this, we have no idea like what we're optimizing for now. And so like,
I don't agree.
Well,
I think we do know what we're optimizing for, and we've talked about this.
Well, but here's so Grok will read posts like a human would read them, which, I don't know if that's true, but let's assume then all those engagements tactics stop working. Engagement bait, hashtag spam, threading tweets just to get replies. None of that matters if the AI is just reading substance. So what does that matter? Like, tell me if this makes sense. It's about clarity and structure. Like, can AI reading 100 million posts understand your main point immediately? Because it's not going to go to the, hunt for insight through 3 paragraphs of setup. And so you have to like front load your point, clear headers, make it new and refreshing and something that's relevant. Like there's a lot of possibilities there, because first I was like, oh my God, we're literally going to write for AI.
We said this weeks ago.
And we talked about, and people are like, oh my God, GEO, it's beep, beep, like, oh, AEO, it's irrelevant. SEO is still strong. Well, here we are. X is the first one to kind of do this. And I have a feeling LinkedIn may follow, because here's the deal. Like, AI has been great, but I don't know about you. People use AI to write now, and there's not a lot of creativity. So you just like, it's slop after slop after slop reading. And you're like, it's all manipulation and tactics and what gets me visibility. And now all of that is going to be like sorted out. And
I don't know if that problem's going to be solved, but I think here's how I think about this. And this is what I'm expecting. We'll see what happens. We got to see what happens, but here's how I see the picture right now. So Grok is going to look at 100 million posts a day. AIs generally have access to all the sphere of information. Let's just say that they can actually access all the information that's ever been published on the internet. We got a great idea about a lot of topics. Imagine each topic as a sphere of a certain size. And when more information that is new is added to that sphere, it becomes a little bit bigger. Okay? And so the idea for Grok, I believe, is to have it look at this and start prioritizing information that is adding to different spheres. It will know that, go back to my earlier thing, it will know that you like golf content. It will look at this golf content and say, actually, this is a little different. This is adding to the sphere. Let's put it in the For You tab. So the people who are into golf suddenly going to see this. The same thing for AI. Oh, look at these people publishing about practical AI. They've mentioned some stuff that's not been mentioned before. This looks legitimate. there's actually some meat in this post. Let's put that in the For You tab and pump it out to all the people who are interested in AI topics. This mechanism is absolutely missing from X and other platforms right now. Just because something is new and serves as an augmentation to the information space in a sphere does not mean it's going to be seen at all. In fact, it probably will not. If it is a small account that's got no visibility and no one there to amplify it, and there's no one liking it, there's no one seeing it, it's like it doesn't exist. We've talked about in previous weeks how kind of the trend of internet in the past 15 years has been that the long tail has been getting swallowed up. The long tail is disappearing. With this, what we've seen on social media is the long tail disappearing. And the introduction of paying creators on X has accelerated the long tail from X disappearing. Elon knows this. I think he thinks it's a problem. It's causing people who are not top users to just peace out. The top users are more engaged than ever. They use it all day long. That's all they do. And then the people who are kind of fringe, or maybe 40 minutes a day, now 4 minutes a day. They don't really care. They're dropping off. So you do that, then you end up with a big echo chamber and the whole system just kind of stinks. So they need to re-engage the long tail. How do you do that? You have to have something that's actively promoting that, because humans aren't going to see it. So a machine has to see it. That's the only way this stuff can bubble up. That's the only way information that's truly adding to existing spheres of information can reliably be seen. And that's what's important. Do we not want to expand the information frontiers? Do we not want to be doing new things with software and things like that? We have to have some way to see and interact with the novelty that is happening in various spaces, or else we're going to lose the magic.
Well, I think in the way it's good news and bad news. So good news, people who write substance, right? Clear content. I don't know how to play engagement games. I just want to, I know we do a lot of new things. We talk about new things, but anytime I try to do the engagement game, I'm a small account. I don't have a lot of pool like the other accounts do. But now it just looks like I just need to be good at communicating my ideas. That's the good side. The bad side, we're replacing algorithmic bias with AI bias. And we have zero transparency on what Grok thinks should prioritize. So I don't know. I mean, clear writing, so, you'll still be seeing things that are interesting to you. It's just going to be written in a way that I guess easier to read for humans without getting, swayed.
I don't know. They've also mentioned that original content, videos, but really videos, but also images, things like that. That's going to matter again. Yeah. Because right now I could post even a year ago, I could post videos regularly and get over 1,000 views easily on X on each one. No problem at all. I freaking cannot do that now. If you're like, Chris, it's this or you die, I'm going to be dead. Can't do it now. I've seen it, it's just gotten dramatically worse as that monetization has further been entrenched. The cone of information getting smaller. Imagine at the bottom of the cone, you're capturing a lot of information. As that cone gets smaller near the top, you're capturing much less information. So much is being left out of that conversation. People aren't even seeing it anymore. Something's got to give. This seems like the only way out. And I think it's so ironic. Humans curating human stuff. If there are rewards to be had, and even if you remove the monetization, I think just the attention angle probably leads us there, just more slowly. It ends in a race to the bottom. It ends in a slop fest. It ends in an engagement farming fest, and it's just not going to work. I can't really see any other way around it.
Well, I guess what the GEO or AEO is already here, right? That's kind of what we're saying. So here's
it's just going to be everywhere. It's just going to be an omnipresent thing. AEO, GEO is a way of life.
Yeah. What do you think we should call it, just for simplicity? GEO here or AEO? What shall we call it?
Well, hopefully something will emerge that sort of captures both.
For now, let's call it GEO.
Let's do GEO because answer optimization, I think, is a weak use case for AI. Question answer, I think, is actually weak. I want it to do things.
So generative is better. Yeah. So here's a little playbook, I guess, that I played with yesterday. So what can you do about this? You've got 6 weeks, start playing with this. First, audit your recent posts. Read just the first sentence. Does it convey your main point? If not, you're probably invisible to Grok. So the first sentence has to convey your main point. Second, add structure. Even in short posts, headers, topic sentences, clear takeaways. Make it scannable for both AI and humans. Third, and this is the shift I'm making, write for AI interpretation first, then add personality. Structure for machines, style for humans. And I'm treating this as an experiment. I wrote a couple tweets this way. I kind of asked Claude to create a framework for tweet writing, and I'm just going to keep testing it to see what actually gets traction and what not. But that's kind of what AI is looking for. That's what Grok is looking for. So hopefully this will help you start thinking about it from that angle, especially for writing online. So any other takeaways from you, Mr. Professional X-User?
I mean, I hope that this does what Elon has suggested it would do, and it's provide enhanced visibility for smaller accounts. So when I lived in Hollywood, one of the things that shocked me sort of was getting to see firsthand how much people there were completely reliant upon somebody else ranked higher than them, pulling them up to the next class that they wanted to achieve. This was pretty much everybody's plan for making it in Hollywood. Somebody greater than them was going to promote them or involve them in something that would elevate their status. And I remember thinking, what a dismal approach that is, because then you're not really in charge of your own future. You have to engage in networking, and hopefully somebody's going to pull you up. What's their incentive to do so? It's not a very good way of operating. I want to be able to write my own book. I want to say, hey, you're going to move to the next level because you're going to go do these things and take yourself there. I don't want to rely on somebody else to do it. And in social media, you are basically relying on larger accounts to amplify your message. Like, hopefully you can appeal to enough of them that they'll drag you up into the tier where you actually matter. That sucks. I already went to Hollywood once and thought it was a mess. I got out. I don't want to do it again.
Can you help me? Are you someone? Oh, you're not? Okay, I gotta go.
Yep.
That's the networking way. So Esther's asking, how is this better for small accounts?
Because right now, and this has been increasing in velocity over the past year, small account, there's no reason to say something from a small account. In fact, there's been multiple cases of some of these bigger meme style accounts just stealing content from smaller accounts, like a banger post that gets no views. They post it and get 1 million views. So the incentive is to steal if you have the eyeballs. That means the little guy just gets screwed harder and harder. The algorithm rewards that behavior. You already had no visibility. You're not going to get visibility. The bigger accounts just get bigger. Like, this is a massive sort of wealth inequality situation, if you want to see it that way. And it only gets worse over time because of the nature of human attention. And also that there's an incentive to be had now with X with monetization. So because humans are not going to promote the little guy, even though the content may be good, this is the catch, AI can look at that and say, oh, this content can be good. And it can actually put that out there. Let's say it finds your content. You're a little guy. I'm a little guy. It puts the content out there, and it can check the engagement for that and say, actually, this is doing pretty decent. Certainly better than it would have done under the old regime. And that is a way for that stuff to get views in a way that it would not now. It will not. Yeah. The way things currently are structured, it's over.
mean, again, we'll see what happens. We've got 6 weeks. Start optimizing. See if you notice anything different with a new way, and we'll see what happens. Do you have anything else before I move on?
Big shift. We're giving away control. We think that a human curated system would be better for humans, and I think paradoxically it is not. I think it is not. I think it's so funny. Humans are not egalitarian at all. We are not. I mean, you let the herd just go off and do herd behavior. It becomes the worst inequality system you've ever seen in your life. Hilarious, could just runs right over all these social trends. Okay, you run the human experiment. This is what you get. It's messy. It's messy.
We do know
the AIs can actually do a much better job of having like more equal allocations, or at least more fair allocations out on the human playground.
We do know that Elon is trying to make X a lot more engageable or whatever. And so this, he's, at least there's that intention to make it better for creators, especially the ones that don't have hundreds of thousands of followers. So at least there's that intention. So we'll see what Grok will do, but I guess we'll find out. Moving on, I think I'm going to skip the...
Yeah, we can do that when I get some page motor stuff.
Yeah. And then the last but not least, we're going to talk quickly about the funding. Do you want to pull up the slides? So
Dun, dun,
as
dun.
always, this past week, of course, AI is a winner. Again, they raised all over the world, $2.8 billion was raised for AI companies. That's roughly 40% of all venture dollars in the world. United States was a big winner with 2.1 billion, 75%.
It's been pretty consistent too, right about 75% every week.
Europe with 15%, 410 million. And the rest of the world, where is it? China, still, I'm very suspicious about it.
They sort of entered the chat this week.
They did, but did they? We'll talk about the big company that raised a lot of money, so we'll talk about that. But that's kind of where the money went. In United States, dominating enterprise AI, voice agents, and generative media. And in Europe, strength for AI in health, energy, and industrial automation. So who are the companies that are, let's talk about the top 5 right quick. Can you go to the next one? So number 1, it's called Unifor. So basically, this top 5 AI startups pulled $1 billion combined. Crazy. So Unifor, which is $260 million, it's the customer service. The problem they're solving is customer service still wastes hours on repetitive calls. What they do is build agentic AI assistants that understand emotion, summarize calls, and take real actions, turning contact centers in autonomous engines. Oh, great. And then Sesame, the problem they're solving is voice assistants like Siri can handle complex multi-language conversations. So they develop context-aware voice AI that holds natural dialogue across languages for enterprises.
Who is using multiple languages in a conversation?
It's probably going to be like if you go to the doctor, like Spanish, you know how they always say, what language do you speak? And if there's somebody speaks Spanish or they're not really good at English or they always say, do you need an interpreter when you go to the doctor's office or whatever. Or if it's legal stuff, and when you get arrested, for example, and if you don't speak English, they want to make sure you understand your rights. So whatever. So multiple languages right there, I think. But
I'm going to have to censor myself. Move on.
All right. FAL, 250 million. Produce video and design content is slow and expensive. So generative AI media platform creates realistic visuals and videos from text prompts, slashing creative costs. So this is Lib AI. It's in China, 130 million. That's the one that got the money. It's AI image generation. They do a creative AI platform that democratizes image and design generation for creators. Interesting. That's in China. And then the last but not least is LangChain. They provide core framework for large language model apps, making AI development faster and enterprise grade.
I want to talk about that real quick. There is a lot of stuff popping up. Like Lovable pretty much does this. There's various pieces of this. Supabase we've talked about before. There is a whole lot of effort in VC money and just general investment capital pouring into this attempt to make it easier to build apps. But what's happening is you still have all these disparate components that you need. You need database. You need user management and authentication. All these things really slow down. They're things everybody needs. They're pieces, common pieces. But actually getting them really slows down development and reduces the total number of outcomes that we get. And if you fail along any of those lines, well, then that your initiative is hosed anyway. So it is amazing to me, though, to look at this and to see how much money has been poured into
that's a lot.
These attempts to sort of it's almost like, you can look at this in the context of like a WordPress website. A developer comes in and does an integration for you, a custom integration where he ties together like 6 key plugins that you have. That's what this is at scale for apps. And it's all AI driven. It's like they want to do prompt driven thing. You add your user thing, you add your database management. Oh, here, tied into Vercel, tied into Supabase.
Yep.
Tied into LangChain,
and the number one trend this week was agentic AI takes over. So it's not just it's AI that actually acts, not just chats. And so they raise hundreds of millions of dollars for systems that think and do. So it's going more towards practical way of actually getting something done versus just talking about it.
AI should be doing.
I love it. Anyway, what's the big takeaway from today?
Well, I think we certainly need to be open to using these new AI native tools. The browser comes out, use the browser. But when you use the browser, don't just use it to be using it. Use it and question your existing workflows. Think, how can what are some enhancement layers that could serve me well? Do I think in terms of like having 50 tabs open and just remember, oh, I've got this PHP tab open over here on workspace 2 on my Mac or on desktop number 2? Or is this something that like, could the AI be summarizing the stuff that you've done? It just knows the tabs that you've been to over the last few sessions. And it says, here's all your code stuff. You've also been looking at, Transformers. My kids into Transformers. I've been looking at this. It could summarize that, and you could go look at that, like your little, almost like saved bookmarks. And then it could say, here's all the information that you had around this. What do you want to explore? Something like that. So it's a different way of organizing your information up, a way that actually is more organized than whatever we've used, which is really, my browser usage is very disorganized, I'd have to admit. So rethink your existing workflows there. The AI stuff offers enhancement in various ways. Figure out what those ways are for you. But definitely don't be like a neophyte here. Don't not use the software, or don't be a Luddite. Go use the software and actually figure out, rethink your workflows. Be open to that. A lot of this whole, thing is about giving yourself opportunities to play, to discover new things. That's probably the biggest one for like just how you need to operate moving forward and what your mindset should be. I also can't quit thinking about this idea that humans running human systems goes into the ground.
What can go
I can't
wrong?
get over this.
Yeah. And
like AI, is it better? I think it might be better.
We'll see.
But so the question that's going to come up, we're going to get all philosophical. Humans, we know the incentive. They want to pull attention to their corner. And in the absence of, that's number one. You can strip away everything else. They're going to try to get attention. If they can get anything else, money, benefits, whatever, then they're definitely going to go for that. And then it's going to be idiocracy. You run it long enough, that's where we get. So, but the AI, is AI going to have incentives too? That's the philosophical part of this. Like, I don't know. For me right now, I'm operating under a no, but AI is not really a computer, right? AIs are computers that are programmed by humans. So we have to be wary of that. Like, what incentives are being injected into this, and also what biases. That's another thing. We could have covered that this week. We'll probably cover it next week. There was a big study about bias in these AI platforms. And this study was conducted on the basis of race and also of outcomes. Like, how would the AI treat this? Well, if these conditions are present, then this outcome. If these conditions are present, then that outcome. And the whole basis of the study was that, like, these two things should just be treated equally if we're really doing what we say we do socially, like we want everyone to be treated equal, something like this, then it should be this, but then the AIs are doing different things. Grok actually tested the best on that. Maybe we'll look into that next week. But bottom line is, there are biases present. Where there are biases, there will be some incentives present. So we can't just hand it over to AIs and be like, oh, that's definitely better than humans. Like, we still got to be careful. It's just going to be different. How will it be different?
And then my parting wisdom takeaway is try the simulation thinking, right? And try thinking like a 14-year-old with AI this week. And another thing I would definitely do is trying this new playbook for Write for AI first, and just kind of see what that looks like. I actually, based on the post I wrote, using the framework, I like that structure better because I like getting to the bottom of things first, and I don't like all this fluffy things.
That's attention design.
That well, kind of like the manipulation factors. I just don't get it. So try that and try the playbook and report back and let us know what you think.
Last thing, think about the pricing We went over the pricing thing. Think about what pricing structures you might like to see. How might you like to pay for things? If you have products, how can you structure, like, what would be a theoretical condition? Use the AI to do this. What would happen if, if I did this, what could I expect? But so one of the biggest things that AI is doing, I think it's doing two huge things. One is it's going to change the way we think about the cost of everything. We're going to get all the way down to a very granular cost per action, and that will change the way that we perceive everything that we do, because we will understand cost per action and it will change the way we make decisions. That is absolutely huge. And I forget the other big thing that I had planned there for about, like, what is the other, the two things that AI is really going to change. But I've covered that in previous thing. I'm just blanking here at the end of the show. I'm fried.
You will come back to that.
But
anyway,
bottom line, the cost thing is huge. It's going to change pricing. You need to be on top of that.
So thank you, everybody who was here today with us, participating. This makes my day, being live and interacting with everybody. Thank you for contributing. This is what makes it kind of worthwhile to see all this participation. And we will see you next Friday with another episode of Practical.
And probably a new ChatGPT product. See you then.
Who knows? All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you later. Bye.